Dean Thompson. Welcome to another Escape to Gaming. Today's going to be kind of a special episode or a rant as to why I started this channel, Escape to Gaming. Why Escape to Gaming? Well, I wanted to take the time to kind of talk about my discoveries as a gamer, my feelings about gaming today, and about YouTube. Now, I didn't even really discover YouTube, frankly, until around 08 was the first time that I started watching videos on YouTube, because the Xbox 360 came out in 05. At the time, like $1,000 on eBay. It was just a lot of money. I really couldn't afford it, so I kind of waited for the price to drop. And then in the meantime, I still had my PS2 and regular Xbox, and by then there were so many incredible games for the PS2. There were just a flood of games that were coming out. Even some of the ones that were ported for the Xbox 360 or even the PS3, you could get versions for the regular Xbox and the PS2. So I just kept playing those, and there were so many mom and pop stores where they were starting to sell used games that I just, if you spent your whole life, I don't think you could play all of the PlayStation 2 games alone. There were so many. So I kind of kept putting it off, and then I was a little dismayed over what was happening with this red ring of death on the Xbox 360. So initially the PS3 and the Xbox were so expensive at the time, so I'll just wait for the price to drop, and the price would drop, and there's still kind of issues with each of them, so I wanted to wait till the time was right. So it really wasn't until the late part of 09 before I even got a 360. By then the price, I think, dropped to $299. The day that it dropped was actually the day that I went out and bought one. It was also the same day that Wolfenstein came out from Raven Software, which is one of my favorite games. So during this part of 09, I was actually primarily the only show that I watched on YouTube. I didn't even really know too much about YouTube or the internet. My wife was on it all the time, and I kind of look over her shoulder, and I'd have her look things up for me, and she'd kind of find things. Well, I discovered Classic Game Room. And at the time, the games were very affordable, used, especially these mom and pop stores. They'd refurbish and clean the desk up, and the original booklet and clamshell, and you could buy many of these wonderful Xbox original games and PS2 games really affordably, and I like that. So I was looking for reviews on older games like Red Faction, some of the ones that kind of slipped through the cracks, and for whatever reason I didn't play, and I discovered Mark Busler in Classic Game Room had a wonderfully positive take on a lot of these classic games. So I just primarily, this is really the first show that I watched on YouTube. And I went back and I'd go through his reviews and spend evenings just swilling beer and watching his reviews and getting excited about the games that were easily available. So I was picking up Red Faction and picking up a lot of these other older games that I really liked based off his reviews. His reviews are very positive. Mark is like me. He looks for the positive in the game. He believes that games are designed and engineered to be fun, and he tries to find the fun in them, as I do. That doesn't mean that he's above, that he doesn't see the negative, the problems with the games and some of the issues with them and bugs and stuff like that. And occasionally he'll point them out, as I will myself if I see them. But primarily, it's the fun factor. Primarily, it's the gameplay that pulls you into the game. I could, give a crap about texture pop-in or jagged edges and stuff like that. Naturally, as a visual person and as an artist, I like to see those smooth edges and like to see those Crysis 3, quality graphics. But to me, the gameplay is front and center. And that's why I can go back and play a lot of these older PS1 and PS2 and regular Xbox games and still really enjoy them and have a great time with them. Although, to be honest, now that we have this wonderful world of new games with incredible graphics, it's hard not to play the new ones. And the more time that goes by, the more I kind of push back a lot of those older games, and they're something that's nice to return to a couple times a year, but I really love the direction gaming is going. We've never had it so good. We're living in a rich, world of just tons of games, a flood of games, and for someone like me that jumped on the Xbox 360 and PS3 bandwagon late, I can't catch up. There's just so many. A lot of you guys have been playing them right since, 05. So you've got, you've been able to kind of stay current with a lot of these games. I'm still trying to get to Metro 2033, and a lot of these older games have been out for a couple years now. I still haven't even played some of the Modern Warfare games yet because I'm just, backlogged in so many games. So this is one of the reasons why I started watching gaming reviews on YouTube. And initially, aside from Mark's review, the only other channel that I saw was GameSpot, which is a great channel. They've got great journalists. They've got some really good in-depth reviews, but I found some of them I would take almost as gospel. and Mark wasn't really reviewing a lot of the newer games, Mark Busler and CGR at the time, so I relied heavily on these reviews from GameSpot. And then a little later on I discovered IGN too. So that pretty much was it. I had just those 3 YouTube channels saved to I had them bookmarked as my favorites, and I go to them, every week to look to see what was new, what was coming out. So quite often I'd be all pumped about a game, but then I'd see the review and I go, well, that's a shame. I really wanted that one, but they said it's average. I gave it a 5 or a 6 or 6.5 or whatever. So I quickly dismiss it and move on. A little later, Mark would review the same game, and he was giving it not a number score, but he would say this game's a lot of fun, and he would focus on the positive of these games. And I really love that and appreciate that in a game reviewer. Now, it doesn't mean he doesn't see the flaws that we all see, from jagged edges or pop-in and issues like that. As a visual person, naturally, I notice those things. But to me, the gameplay comes first. And the fun factor, that's what it's all about. That's why I'm able to go back and play a lot of these older games for the PS1 even, and have a great time, because it's fun. They're fun. You can play Road Rash to this day and have a blast. I could spend 4 or 5 hours, at an evening playing even the original Twisted Metal or Twisted Metal 2 or Road Rash or Return to Castle Wolfenstein from 2001 and have a wonderful immersive evening of gameplay. So based on this, I got excited. I finally kind of figured out how the little search bar worked on YouTube. So I just put in, Wolfenstein, or put a name of Red Faction or name of a game in. And I was kind of surprised to see how many other reviews and previews and game trailers would come up in these games. And it quickly became a hobby. Almost as fun as the gaming itself, just kind of going on a hunt to search for these games. And like I said, by the time I bought my Xbox 360, this was 4 years after it had been out, there was a flood of games, a lot of reviews for me to catch up on. So, and I was confused because I'd see reviews of games that I thought looked really cool. Maybe it was just the box art that kind of, captured my imagination and got me interested. But I'd read the reviews or watch the reviews, and I'm going, man, that's a shame because I really wanted that game. But then I'd start, doing searches, and I discovered there are many other YouTubers, and frankly, a lot of them were just average gamers like myself that had their own take on games. Some of them were crudely done, in someone's bedroom with an unmade bed or whatever. It didn't really matter. What I liked about it was the fact that you're seeing a perspective from the mind of a gamer. So I was confused. I'm looking at these professional journalists that would review a game, and they had very credible points, but again, it was based on their perception. So when I'd see another review that was contrary to it, I was kind of surprised by that, and I found it very fascinating to see these different takes on games. So I quickly started adding to my, bookmarked favorites other YouTube channels. And this is how I discovered many of my good friends that I have, actually to this day, I've discovered through this process of searching for these reviews. So, you get many games. You get games like, I'm one of the 12 people, for instance, that likes, this basically Duke Nukem Forever. I bought, the special Balls of Steel edition, spent, $130-something with the game itself in a box, and $29 for the special art book that went with it. So I'm one of the few people that actually appreciated and liked that game. Yeah, I see the flaws in it, and the graphics are a little subpar, but considering the fact that it's the only Duke Nukem game that we have, it took 12 years to get it out, I don't have an issue with it. So, and it was kind of neat to see some reviews even of that game that were very positive. So, Phil from DSP liked it. Another friend of mine, Russ from the Real Life Gamer, also really had a positive take on it, and I saw a few other takes on it as well. So now I'm seeing these terrible scores of 3s and 4s over here, but then scores of 7.5s and 8s on the same game. So I kind of was very intrigued with that process, and I started doing a little bit more research. And I would take the credibility of the professional reviewers along with some of the natural, born gamers that were out there. Some of them were hardcore gamers, some were average like myself. But I like the fact that everyone had a forum on YouTube. So this kind of got me very interested in starting my own YouTube channel. So I got excited about this process of searching, for these gaming reviews. And I found it almost as fun at times as playing the games, because I could watch, all of a sudden I could watch playthroughs. So I'd play, one level of a game, I was getting stuck, on a game. In fact, it was, I think Wolfenstein was the first time I had seen a playthrough, and then I played, I think it was Singularity a little later. Just one level, I couldn't figure it out. And I go, hey, you know what, I wonder if anyone else has had a problem with this game. So I started just doing general searches, and all of a sudden I discovered my first walkthrough and playthrough. So I'm kind of a caveman. I'm behind the 8 ball with a lot of you guys. We're way ahead of the curve with me on games and on YouTube and all this stuff. But for me, I found it quite fascinating and was excited about the process of that someone else had figured out how to beat a game. You could watch their playthrough. If you get stuck, kind of figure it out. And some of them actually became almost as entertaining. Like I watch a lot of Phil at DSP. I've watched a tremendous amount of his gameplay. Sometimes I'll just want to watch one section of a level and then get carried away because it's so entertaining, kind of continue watching it. And now today we've got a lot more of these channels that just specialize in playthroughs and Let's Plays and walkthroughs, which are cool. But you know, we all have our favorites and people that we like to watch. But I love gaming reviews. I like to hear people's perspectives on games. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this channel, because I see a lot of games get beat up on by the, quote, mainstream reviewers and these professional journalists. But they tend to be a little bit mean-spirited. Some of it is because of political correctness and politics, and I see through that. I kind of see that early on. And, you know, games like, a game like Duke Nukem Forever just got horrible reviews. But then I also would find other people that had positive takes on the same game and really enjoyed it. So I got fascinated with that concept of it, that people did have different points of views, and I started looking for the positive. I looked for the positive in people, I looked for the positive in games, and I certainly looked for the positive on YouTube channels and gaming reviews. And doesn't mean that I don't like a critical review at times. There's times where certainly you want to know if there's a game-breaking bug or a real glitch with a game. But what I'm looking through, I filter through all that, and I'm looking for, is this a game that I can jump into? Is this a game that I'm going to see myself liking and playing? So based off from the passion and enthusiasm, and I've got some great friends that have some wonderful channels where I just love, I don't care, some of them are 35, 45-minute rants on games, and to me it's like 5 minutes goes by. I'm just glued to watching these reviews. I just find it fascinating. So, you know, I've had other friends of mine that tell me, you know, your reviews are way too long. You should make them just a couple minutes. Well, that's fine, and I like those short reviews. Sometimes you just want to get right to the point. But I like the fact that people take the time to really show you the meat and potatoes of the games and what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and especially looking for that fun factor that we all look for when we're looking for a new game to play, whether it's new or used. So this is why I started my Escape to Gaming program, was to simply counter some of those negative reviews that are out there, just to kind of give my 2 cents as an average gamer. You know, some people would consider me a hardcore gamer because I'm doing it for so long, and I do invest a lot of time in it, but I don't play it as much as I'd like to. I don't have the gamer scores of my friends are, you know, upwards of 100,000 other gamer scores or anything like that. But I'm fascinated with the full gambit of gamers out there. Now, my father, for instance, and I mean, God love him, you know, we haven't had the greatest relationship, but one of the first things out of his mouth when I see him is, still playing those violent video games, bud, you know, and it's just, he kind of hammers me on the video games. He always looks down at it. What a waste of time. You could be out, you could be creating art and doing things, and there's something to say for that. But, you know, I don't like, I always feel like I have to defend myself with my old man when it comes to my gaming. And I do like a lot of those violent video games and action games, action-oriented, you know. Just like I like a lot of those old action 80s films, Predator and Commando, and, you know, the Blade Runner, lots of great sci-fi films coming back actually to the 70s and all through the 80s. So I can't get, I'm a fiend for action. I love action games, action movies, but I also like a good Orson Welles drama and classics as well. So you know, I like some hack and slash games, but I love platformers. I love driving games, and I certainly love shooters. And so I have my favorites, and then I have some PC games I like some World War II sim games, some World War II submarine games like Silent Hunter 3. These are games I can never really get enough of playing. So I consider myself a pretty wide range. I have a wide range of taste in games, and you know, I just don't. I can't put the time invested in it as much as a lot of other gamers, because I've got, you know, I have a business, I've got a family, and just a lot of responsibilities. There's times where I may want to turn my Samsung on and dive into a game, but my wife has a notion that he wants to play or watch a Netflix movie. So, you know, and that's fine. My wife plays a lot of the Facebook games, by the way, and that's her thing. She has the patience to watch me play. She likes the older games, the simple ones. Back, you know, the PS1 days, we had a lot of split-screen games, and the early Twisted Metal and Road Rash, to this day, are some of her favorites. Very easy to get into, not a lot of buttons to memorize. Those are the kind of games she likes. I'm still trying to get her to kind of participate in some of these newer games, but she gets overwhelmed when she sees all the button combos and doesn't want to do it. Now, my dad, like I said, doesn't like the games, but my father-in-law, on the other hand, is 76 years old, and this guy is insane with the games. I mean, he has an aversion to first-person shooters, but he loves third-person shooters. We've been playing them for years together. In fact, he's the one that bought me my PS3 a year ago for Christmas. And he's the guy that played Red Dead Redemption and got 100% completion, replayed it a second time, again, 100% completion on every hunting quest, you know, finding those bears with just a knife and taking them down. He has the patience of Job. I mean, I've never seen anyone put so much time into beating a level and getting those trophies, you know, or, you know, for Xbox guys, achievements. But, and so we played, that's how I discovered the Uncharted series and a lot of this. He's a wonderful gamer, 76 years old, and he has the incredible patience and puts in more gaming time. Of course, he's retired, but has much more time to play the game. So I think it's really cool, and I look forward every year we go down and I see him. We have some heavy, you know, late-night gaming sessions on his PS3 that are quite fun. So gaming today, more than ever, has become kind of a big part of my life. Now, my whole life I grew up, I used to be kind of a real adventure. I love cars and motorcycles, so I mean, I've had a slew of dirt bikes and a lot of injuries that went along with them, and cars and racing and drag racing and road racing, and just the hobby of having hot rods to work on and going to car shows. I had a friend that had a pilot's license. We'd rent a plane for the day and go up flying. Just always taking vacations and trips, and a lot of these are hobbies and activities that, you know, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, I could afford. You know, maybe I put more of my time and money and energies into those at the time. But today we're kind of living in a society, especially these last 5 years, the economy is just really tough. Many of us are just barely making it. I mean, even today, my own business has slowed down considerably because of the economy, the way it is. But you know, you just have to work harder. You work harder, and you just have to cut corners. You don't go out to eat as much. Maybe you can't take that trip to Hawaii or a lot of the fancy things that we like to have. So the one friend that's always been there are games. You know, my DVD player, my movies, which I love looking at a lot of these older films or new ones coming out. I love Netflix. I love my DVD player. But games have been like my #1 friend that's always there. When everyone else turns their back on you, life is tough, you're going through hard times, you get depressed because you can't buy the new car, because you can't take your wife out the way you'd like to, you had to put off that vacation that you planned a couple years ago, whatever. These are the reasons why I started Escape to Gaming. Because to me, games really embody the essence of escapism. I mean, there's nothing else where you can, whether it's $12 for a used game or you pay $60 or $100 for a new one or a special edition, collector's edition, to me it's worth every penny. If you can find that fun in that game and dive into an experience that literally takes you away. I mean, I've studied books on people that have endured horrible POWs, you know, in Vietnam War or in World War II in concentration camps, and what got them through it was living in their mind, living through their imagination. Their focus, they kept it positive, they kept thinking of the beauty that was beyond. And to me, that kind of stuck with me. That was kind of a radical example of that you could really live within the arena of your mind and through this tool of escapism. And growing up, you know, before even the television, you just read a lot of books. I read a lot of, you know, really cool books and novels, and that was very fun. And that was a wonderful form of escapism. Later, you get movies. All of a sudden, then they had a VCR, and you could actually rent a movie, which you saw at the theater, you know, a couple years before, and watch it. That was even more fun. But games, to me, have been a great way of interactive movie experience. You suspend your disbelief, and you know, you kind of delve into this experience through a two-dimensional process, and it's very exciting. My dad will never understand it, and a lot of other people, they just don't understand, oh God, how can you spend so much time with the games? You're really disconnected. Should be out mountain climbing or, you know, skydiving or doing stuff like that. And that, yeah, that's fine. I'm a little older now, and it's, you know, I run the risk of getting hurt, and then I can't run my business if I break a leg skydiving or something happens on a dirt bike. So I've kind of had to put a lot of those expensive hobbies aside. But gaming is a very affordable way of escapism. It's one of the last places we have left that we can really have a wonderful time within this arena of the mind. And it's a fun factor that we are all going after. Some of us, it's a Skyrim, just an incredible amount of time to hunt everything down, and the exploration. It's a world you can really just enjoy diving into. For me, I remember my early memories of Return to Castle Wolfenstein back in 2001 for the PS2, Operation Resurrection. What a fantastic game. I mean, the first few nights I played it, I just had these all-nighters, just, staying up late at night and playing it till the early hours of the morning. I couldn't, and I'd replay it on hard. I'd try to work at getting the levels down, getting through them faster. And I can't tell you how much fun I had. Some of the fun I had in those games were just as much fun as I had on any, expensive vacation, or frankly going out and spending, $15,000 on a new motor for one of my, hot rods, just so people can go, yeah, whatever. So gaming has become a wonderful form of fun for me, and this is why I wanted to do this show. So my goal with this show is to really get you to think for yourself. Don't just quickly watch a couple, see a Metacritic score and dismiss the game. Or watch, one of the mainstream reviewers, and like I said, many of them are good. Doesn't mean that they're all bad or to highly question all of them, but take the time to do your research. There's many other gamers out there that will look for the fun in games. So, you may like the game for your own reasons, and you'll find a similar fellow out there or gal out there that'll do a great review of it and show you from their perspective. So quickly, that's how I pretty much look at games now. I take the time to do the research. There are many games that I like that other people put down. I'll be doing a show on some of those guilty pleasures of these kind of mediocre games. And some of them I even see as being mediocre, but the fun factor is so great I can't help myself but diving into them. A lot of people have put work into these games. A game like Resident Evil 6 can easily be dismissed, oh, it's a terrible game, what a piece of crap. But I see a lot of people that are having fun with it. You got 600 artisans and technicians that went into making that game behind the scenes. So I tend to give it a little bit more patience. I try to respect the people. I'm not the kind of a person to quickly, skip through the cutscenes or even the credits at the end of a game. I like to acknowledge and honor those people that made that game. I used to work in the movie studios and doing work for 20th Century Fox and, for a bunch of TV commercials and Universal Studios. So I know that even the little trivial things that you do behind the scenes or what it takes to comprise a movie today, or a TV spot, or a TV program. It's a tremendous amount of work. It's the same thing with games. A lot of people go behind the scenes to make the game, so no one sets out to make a bad game. I think games are all engineered to be fun. It's up for us to find the fun in them. And some games are just horrible or broken. If it has really broken gameplay or really bad game-breaking bugs, well then I tend to stay away from them. But I'll still take the time to see other people's perspective on it, and if I see a few takes on the games that I like, then I consider them, and will add them to my list of games. A game like 007 Legends get horrible mixed reviews. Just the year before, IGN and GameSpot both gave 007 Reloaded, GoldenEye Reloaded, both gave it an 8 and 8.5 respectively in their, basically a number score, which I'm not real big on. To me, games are very subjective, and I don't think that they should be scored really with a number, but it does help you quickly look at it. And the Metacritic score also, I take it with a grain of salt. Just because a Metacritic score is low doesn't mean I'll quickly, not look at a game or easily dismiss the game. So I take the time to be a critical thinker, do the research for myself. You get many wonderful YouTubers out there that have great channels that give their 2 cents on games. And I love to see the full range and spectrum of all of these reviews and personal takes on games. It's very fascinating to me personally. So 007 Legends comes out a year later, and the same mainstream reviewers just throw it to the wolves, when in fact it's almost like an extension of the GoldenEye Reloaded game. It virtually is almost identical. In fact, it's even smoother. It has more colorful set pieces, and they introduce a lot of new RPG elements that they didn't even have in GoldenEye Reloaded, but yet everyone shot it down. And part of that is due to expectations. Eurocom had been working on it for a while. You get the new Bond film coming out. it's 50 years of James Bond, so people have their own reasons for putting the game down, but I really was baffled, and that really got me looking at, I should start my own show and start my own basic counter reviews of some of these overly negative and overly critical, opinionated takes on games. Some of them are based off from political correctness, some are based off just personal preference. I mean, just like movies or a good book, it's all subjective. All art is subjective. And I do look at video games as art, and I have long before this controversy as to whether, video games are art. To me, it always has been a form of art and escapism and expressing yourself through how you play the game. And I like games that give you those ranges of options. You can play it any way you like. That's why a game like Far Cry 3, I mean, I'm not even 50% into the game, and I've cut in 24 hours in it so far. I like to roll my sleeves up. I went and played, Sleeping Dogs again late last night, and I've got 21 hours in the game, and I'm only 46% into the game. I like the hunt for collectibles. I like to level up by finding all of the collectibles that help you to kind of level your character up, which makes the main missions a lot more easy to kind of dive through. So, again, I take the time to really to be fair with the games and give them a chance. And I encourage you to do the same thing. I hope this show is helpful and will give you a little bit of insight from my own perspective. And again, even take what I say as a grain of salt. There's many other YouTube channels out there. You find do the research, find the information for yourself. Ultimately, it's your money. And if I can help save someone some money by recommending a good game that's affordable, and frankly, there's some wonderful games you can get for $10, $12, or $20, that there's nothing wrong with them. It's almost like because time changes, a lot of these games, even though I paid $12, I almost feel guilty. It's like, I'd pay easily $60 for this game. So I hope my show is helpful, Escape to Gaming, and helping you pick games. I'm going to review some of the ones that I like, and some of them will be, guilty pleasures that perhaps get kind of bagged on by other gamers or by other, mainstream reviewers, but I'll show you why I think they're fun. And I certainly, as a visual person, I notice some of the flaws and, problems with the games. But at the same time, I want to be a counter for people where they can see a positive review of other games or perhaps were bagged on unfairly or unnecessarily based on someone's personal agenda. So, and we all have our opinions. I'm rarely going to take a game and rip it apart unless there's something that's really a game-breaking bug or something that just makes it so bad that I wouldn't want to see anyone waste their money on it. But rarely that's the case. I, for the most part, try to find the fun in all games, even some of the mediocre ones, which quickly can become guilty pleasures. You get a game like Soldier of Fortune Payback. A pretty god-awful game in some respects, but a lot of fun. It has a lot of elements to it that I actually like, and I find it very, it's a fun game to play, and I got it really, really cheap. So these are the reasons why I wanted to start this show, to give people a chance to think for themselves, to give just another perspective from someone else that maybe has a more positive view on games. And I know I appreciate that with Mark Busler of Classic Game Room. I love positive reviewers that look for the fun in games, and I hope you will as well. So I hope you find the show helpful, informative. I hope you like my little rant. Just gave you a little history about why I started the show and what I'm planning on doing. And again, I've got some wonderful reviews I'm about to do that came out from games from 2012, so I'm anxious to get those out to you just as quickly as I can. And I'll have more of these rants, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm kind of still working on writing my time in the 80s, growing up in the 80s with gaming, and then shortly after I'll be doing one in my time in the 90s as well. With the advent of, the 3DO and the PlayStation 1 and many of these other, Sega Genesis and other wonderful consoles. So thanks for watching the show, and it means a lot to me that you take the time of all the videos out there to watch mine. So thanks again, and have a wonderful 2013.